Hi everybody, welcome back to this week's Chasing Psychological Safety video. This week we're wanting to build on our article of yesterday about the actual cost of psychological safety, or the cost of not having psychological safety. One of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today is because you're starting to see over the last few years a lot more of the real stories of low psychological safety out there in the public arena. The Boeing documentary that's been out recently, some of the stories about really difficult and tragic situations in healthcare, and of course, other stories of other kinds of industries as well. And it's been, in terms of the journey of the importance of psychological safety, seeing those stories out in the public arena is a big motivator for lots of people to get started on that journey. So we wanted to really dig into a bit more about what it actually means if you don't build on psychological safety. And one of the things that we've always been quite clear on is that whilst a lot of the research around psychological safety and a lot of the stories that are in the public arena are around the healthcare industry and the aviation industry, for example, there are some system stories around nuclear. Those are really, really clearly industries in which, when you have low psychological safety, it is a matter of literally life and death. So we always separate them out, essentially, because we do understand and we're really empathetic to the fact that in certain industries, people's lives are at stake when there's low psychological safety, and people's lives are saved when there's higher psychological safety. And that in other businesses, with our DevOps teams and in other organizations, the risk to human life is not there, but the risk to business and business success is absolutely there. And the risk to the health of teams and their well-being and their ability to perform and their productivity is what we're looking at in those organizations. So when we talk about the cost of low psychological safety, we tend to focus there because that's now where the conversation needs to happen. In the other areas, it's already been made clear what the impact is, and a lot of that work is being done, particularly the aviation industry. There's been such a huge focus on making sure that safety is absolutely paramount there, that they've reduced the risk enormously, partly by looking at psychological safety. But now we need to start really looking at every other industry and understanding exactly what the risk and the cost of low psychological safety is everywhere else.
Right, and it isn't only costs that you can see either. Again, in these industries, it's very evident and very traumatic and very in your face, and it's undeniably humongously urgent that it does get resolved. And believe it or not, this isn't even to say that those industries are doing incredibly well on fixing it, even when they know there's risk to life and limb. But it's also about the hidden cost, or the cost that we can't for now quantify, the costs that have to do with, again, how people feel, as Fjord mentioned it, their mental health costs, the overall cost to the enterprise when you have disengaged, burned out, and non-involved really employees that are on top of everything afraid. So when you kind of layer a culture of blame and systemic bullying and toxic interactions on top of having people that are in objectively bad places in terms of their emotional and mental health, it isn't a recipe for success. We are, for the most part, existing in virtue of inertia, if you wish. A lot of enterprises have such great amounts of what we call human debt, meaning all of these instances when they should have done better by their people and they haven't, all of the times when the enterprise should have shown enough respect and care, and unfortunately they missed the mark on those interactions. So there are so many of those instances that the cost accumulated, we will see it more and more. My fear is, and our fear is, that by the time that they start really being serious about this cost, it may very well be too late to kind of turn the boat around, simply because the vast majority of the companies we're talking about in the business arena are called to make things fast to make them in ways that delight their consumers. They have arrived at this need for agile for no other reason than there is no other way to make things fast that consumers love. And so if they now have a clear need for agile, then they have an even greater need for the human work and for psychological safety. Otherwise, there's no point in putting in place a semi-agile project process of transformation. So all of these companies, it sounds dramatic, but it isn't. If they do not find a way to recenter around the people work quickly and to put psychological safety at the center of all these interactions, they will genuinely have to pay very serious business costs. And by that, I don't mean that they won't be as competitive as others, but they might very well manage to get themselves out of the market. We see companies every day that are going a lot faster than their much bigger counterparts, simply because they have a focus on people. There isn't just lip service, and it isn't stopped by organizational resistance, and it isn't corseted by the lack of courage to say what's right. And so they move ahead a lot faster, and they make those same types of technologies, and they come out with them to the consumer in a way that an incumbent cannot compete and will continue to not being able to compete. And if you overlay on that the time we are at after the pandemic, in this world of remote, in this extreme amounts of burnout that we've never experienced before in the kind of white collar knowledge industry, if you wish, although obviously burnout exists in every other industry. But so if you overlay all of those and you remember that you started from a place where you had active disengagement to begin with, and you're now experiencing the first wave of the Great Resignation, which might very well be followed by another one, we are not at a good place, and we do not have the time. By we, I mean us helping these industries and the incumbents in these industries. We do not have the time to ignore this, to do yet another awareness course, to look at yet another TED talk. Or, we keep these videos very short for a reason. You shouldn't have the time to do 3 hours of just talking about some stuff. We should be able to give you in a few minutes, enough ideas of what to do next. And in this particular case, we actually do want you, whoever is listening to this, to do, if you wish, kind of a mini personal audit of how much human debt you have, how far you are from a situation where psychological safety is well established in every team. And once you figure that out for yourself, think to yourself, what are the mechanisms you have? Who do you know in the leadership team? Who is it that would listen? Who is woke enough to get that the enterprise is going to be left behind? And more importantly, who cares enough? Because let's face it, one of the biggest reasons why there's so much organizational resistance is because most of these people are thinking this is a big lift that they don't want to take. They know there's human debt, but someone else should deal with it. And if you're listening to this, you're obviously not one of those people. You care enough to have listened to us talk about it. And we believe in your potential to kind of look at it honestly and bring it back to the enterprise. So we wish you the best of luck with it.
Absolutely. And once you've done that personal audit, one of the other things that we've put in place that is really helpful is a human debt audit. So if you are thinking about moving beyond that self-awareness phase, if you know in your heart of hearts that the teams that win are the ones that do the human work, come and see us. Talk to us about the human debt audit, talk to us about psychological safety. If you can't do that, take our videos, take the tips that we've given you and just get started at the team level. That's all we ask. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.